I don't know if you were here for our class this morning, but as a kid growing up in the church, we would always, a couple times a year, have the obligatory, missionary report come in. And as a kid, when you would come in and you would see that on there, that we were having that, so we're all in here. There's no Sunday school class. So, I'm just being honest. As a kid, you're like, oh, it's Missionary Sunday. You're going to have to listen, because it's like when the president was on. You're like, oh, we can't watch Wide World of Sports tonight because the president's on every channel. But if you were not here, now, as I've matured, I love hearing what's going on in Honduras, Haiti, Africa, because it's encouraging. It's tough because it's challenging. It's encouraging to know that there's such great people doing what you're doing and sacrificing your life, because you could be here in the lap of luxury like the rest of us, but you choose to give that up to be there making a difference, and that's encouraging to me. And that reminds me, when I hear that, when I see that, when I meet real people and shake hands and hug flesh and blood, it reminds me that God is real and God is alive. And God is working and moving on our planet, whether we choose to believe that or not, because I have two people 4 rows from the front that are living proof that God is doing something supernatural, because nothing else explains why they choose that. No other reason explains why people make a decision to live sacrificing their life, sacrificing their comfort, sacrificing their hearts. How many times are your hearts broken on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? That's the effect that we don't, you don't see in slideshows and you don't hear, is that, not only are we physically uncomfortable, but emotionally and spiritually just wrecked because of what you have to watch and what you have to see and what you have to try to fix. And then some days you're like, am I making a difference? But yeah, because you break the hearts of us here realizing what you're doing, and you challenge us to be better, because you guys are the rock stars out there doing it. And if you don't believe that, then I can't help you. So I want to throw a challenge out there. I want to throw a challenge out to the O'Fallon Church of Christ, and that is one to do a little bit more. Now, we've already had our contribution, right? And everybody's already put in contribution that they planned on putting in, and that, because the Bible says, set aside something, make it planned, make it purposeful, and give. And so we've already done that. So at this point in the service, anything we do is after what we're committed to doing here, right? So after I heard this and I sat down next to my wife, I said, hey, did you bring the checkbook or just the check for deposits? Because I got the checkbook. I said, okay, write out another check. And then I have a relationship with my good friend, and I would encourage you to have relationships like this, where I leaned over and I said, hey, I need a check from you too. They said, for what? I said, don't worry about it. Just give it to me. So we need $1,000 a month. We need $1,000, am I right? $1,000 a month to make a difference. So I've got 2 checks here. It's not a lot, not a whole lot, but here's 2, one from me and one from the Rybacks, because I made them. And you're going to get that once a month, and it's going to be in the, you didn't know that was once a month, but it's once a month. Okay, all right, that's good. Talk to me about that later if you have a problem, but still give me the checks. So we're going to give that to the office, and it's going to say Karen's Kids and all that, and that's not going to be in the basket. It's not going to be on Sunday. It's going to be a separate thing, and then that's just going to come. And I'm just challenging you as I talk. This is the one time I'm going to encourage you. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying, but just let God just work on you this. And let's just see, anonymously, just walk up and give them some money today. Let's see how many. Let's see if we can do 1,000. Let's see if we can do 2. Let's see if we can do 5. I don't know. I don't know where you are personally in your finances. But you know what I decided just sitting over there? I go to Starbucks every single day. Every day I go to Starbucks and I spend $7 on a cup of coffee. Anybody else go to Starbucks? That's not out of line. That's just what it costs, right? I do that every single day. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go to QT like a chump like some Neanderthal, and I'm going to get a $2 cup of coffee. And I'm going to take that $5. What's 5 times 20? That's how many working days are in a month, right? Because it's 5 days, 4 weeks, 20. Is that math right? Okay, that's $100. So that's my $100. So I just need 10 other people, 10 other families, or 20 to do 50, whatever. And we've got it. That's a sacrifice, right? Oh, Shane, you're such a good person. What? I'm sacrificing a dadgum cup of coffee. Don't think good of me. That's how we have to think, folks. Brothers and sisters, that's how we have to think. What little, ridiculous, nothing thing can I give up to make a difference to people who are being raped to try to cure AIDS, for goodness sake? Are you kidding me? And here we are. I'm frustrated because I ordered this latte with no foam. This has got foam in it. I mean, that's the world we live in. I mean, that's our existence right here. And we have brothers and sisters over in Zambia, in Haiti, in Honduras, doing real things in the real kingdom, making real differences. Can we help? Can we be part of that? I mean, can we show Karen's kids today what an absolutely ridiculously loving church the O'Fallon Church of Christ is, and shower them with help? Can we send them back to Africa realizing, it solves so many problems? Now, there will be 1,000 other problems waiting for them once the money situation is taken care of. But as Forrest Gump would say, well, at least that's one less thing I got to worry about. But guys, we have got to challenge ourselves to be more. As much as we do, as much as we help, as much as we love, it's a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket. And we have brothers and sisters who are over there on the front lines in situations that we can only imagine, and we don't even want to think about them. I mean, we don't want to even think about what's going on in certain parts of the world. So can we make a difference? Today we're going to talk about celebration of disciplines, and if you've got anything to write with on the back of your bulletin, write down celebration of disciplines, Richard Foster. It is one of the quintessential classics. It is one of the greatest books on getting closer to God that you will ever read. I've had, multiple copies of this book. I've read it, 20, 30 times. Celebration of Disciplines is one of those books. It's kind of like the Beatles' White Album. I bought it so many different times, and I've given it out. I'm like, oh, you got to listen to this. And then I don't even know where my copy is. And right now, I don't even have one. I gave my marked up copy to one of the seniors in Tennessee when he was graduating, because that was always a conversation that we had. It was all about being disciplined when it comes to our relationship with God. And so we're going to spend the next few weeks talking about individual disciplines, and we're going to talk about today what it means to buy in to being a disciplined Christian and how that should help us. And so in Ephesians chapter 4 in verse 11, starting in verse 11, we're going to talk about, let me get there, and I got so excited about making Kim write me a check that I lost my place. Hold on a second. Galatians, Ephesians, there it is, right there. Somebody moved it. Ephesians chapter 4, 11 through 16. It was He, that's God, it was He who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up, until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God, and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves, and blown here and there by every wind of teaching, by the cunning and craftiness of men and their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow to Him who is the head, that is Christ, for in Him the whole body is joined together, held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. Now, that passage talks about a lot of things. But the overall theme, the overall point that's getting across is that there is some work to be done in order for us to be prepared and to be ready to do the work that God has prepared for us to do. Now, I know that kind of sounds confusing, but think about that. God has prepared us to do things. He's put divine appointments out there for us to accomplish kingdom work, and it's not going to take place if we're not prepared ourselves. So we have to engage ourselves in things on a daily basis that get us closer to God, that help us work on ourselves so we can do the work that He's prepared, and those are the disciplines that He has also given us. Because we all have talents, don't we? I mean, we all have talents. We all have things that God has things that He's built in us that we are just naturally gifted at in order to complete His work, to do the things that He's prepared for us. We all, but they're not all the same, but they're all talents. They're all gifts. I mean, there is there are certain things that you can just take to. Like, some people are just naturally gifted athletes, right? Some people can just throw a ball farther and faster. Some people can run farther and faster. Some people can catch a ball. Some people can, there's just gifted athletes out there, right? Well, there's also just gifted people in certain areas. I mean, there's some people, and you know who they are, and you've met them, and you just really, they're just gifted in grace, or gifted in being nice, or kindness, or patience, or it just comes easier for them. But there's a thing about being talented and having gifts, and that is that, not everybody works hard at what it is that they're talented at. We all don't work hard, do we? Yeah, but we all don't work hard. We all have talents, but we all don't work at them. We think that, well, just, what I can do is good enough, and just getting out there and if you ever coached a sport or watched a sport or any of that, and you see, kids or young people that have specific talent, and they can just show up and be pretty good. I mean, they can, whether it's in golf or baseball or football or basketball or whatever, run track. Kids that can just run fast, they think, I'll get out on the track and just run fast and I'll be fine. But see, there's a thing about talent, there's a thing about gifts, and that is that hard work will beat talent. Hard work will, you can get somebody that's not talented, and they just outwork everybody. Pete Rose is a great example of working hard. Precious little else he's a great example of, but that one thing he's a great example of. Pete Rose, one of the greatest baseball players on the field of all time. I don't think anybody would debate that, well, unless they wanted to lose. But if you wanted to lose, you can debate that. But he doesn't have as much talent as anyone playing in his era. But what he did was he outworked everybody. Because hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. There it is. When talent doesn't work, because you can be talented in something and you don't work at it and you don't reach your full potential. Now, who in here wants that to be said of them when it comes to the kingdom work that God has prepared in advance for you to do? Who in here wants to say, well, God, you got, I'm going to do this thing you've prepared for me, okay. Anybody else get that, the commercial? We do brakes, okay. Hey, if the brakes don't stop you, something else will. That's not really a saying. Well, it is here, because I wrote it. Okay movers, seen that commercial? Hey, are y'all good movers? Well, we're okay. Here's your piano. We don't have a piano. Well, the neighbors do. Nobody wants that to be said of them when it comes to kingdom work. Well, I do the things that God has set up for me to do. I do them okay. See, that's where the spiritual disciplines come into play. Because nobody wants to present to God just okay. Well, you shouldn't anyway. And when it comes to doing what it is that God has prepared in advance for us to do, it is important for us to understand in what direction we are talented and work hard in that direction. Because Christ-likeness is not a journey for us. Or Christ-likeness, it is a journey for us. Christ-likeness is not a destination this side of heaven. See, the problem with so many Christians is that we get complacent. We get complacent in the things that we do. We get complacent in the way that we think about this relationship with God. And we think that instead of a journey, that it's a place that we get in our lives and then we just go from there. We just kind of coast on through instead of spending every day trying to be more and more. Instead of spending every day trying to find more and more opportunities to glorify God. Instead of spending every day trying to get closer and closer to God. Hit the button because there's another one there. Christ-likeness, it's not a destination this side of heaven. Christ-likeness is a journey. It's something that we are working towards on a daily basis. And so as we go through this sermon series about the spiritual disciplines, we're going to go through whether it's study or solitude, submission, worship, prayer, fasting, all of the specific spiritual disciplines, and each one of them has a place and each one of them has a purpose. And it's all about working on this relationship so that we never stop being more and more Christ-like. So what do spiritual disciplines do for us? As we celebrate individual disciplines, and we're going to spend a lot of time on each specific one so that we can spend time daily mastering them. But what do the disciplines, if we look at Ephesians and he tells us, look, God gave us some of us to do this, some to do that, some to do this other thing. And it's all about these things that God has prepared, that God has planned for us, that we are preparing ourselves. But the spiritual disciplines, first and foremost, help us to get through each and every day. Now, one of the things from our Sunday school class that was said that just jumped out at me and just wrapped around my head was that they're living in survival mode. I mean, just trying to get through each and every day. Is that how we live our Christian lives? Are we just trying to get through every single day? Well, on certain levels, it should be. And this is what I mean by that. We should be thinking about this not in, oh man, I hope I go to heaven when I die. Oh, I want to be good so I can go to heaven when I die. Oh, so I can experience this next. We got to be understanding that that we are in a battle. We are in a war. There's a war going on. Read Revelation. There's a war going on since the beginning of time, and it's against God. It's between God and evil, holiness and unholy. There's this war. It's taking place. It's already been decided, but it is going on around us every day. And if anyone who's ever been in war, in a real gunfight war, and there's some in this audience that have truly been in combat, you'll know that when it starts going on, all you're trying to do is survive. All you're trying to do is fight your way out of that experience so that you can make it to the next one. Do we think about our relationship with our kingdom life? Do we think about this life that way? See, the problem is that we get so complacent. We look around and we have this really comfortable place to worship. No one's trying to hurt us. No one's trying to prohibit us from worshiping. But right now, today, in other parts of the country that quite frankly we're not concerned with, they're having to do what we're doing secretly and quietly. Because if they get found out, they will get killed. Not just in trouble. They won't just get a ticket and say, hey, y'all don't do that anymore. No. They will be murdered. See, we get comfortable, and so we're not thinking about just day to day. We're thinking about, hey, I got that God thing all squared away, and now I'm just, being as comfortable as possible. But we have to think about getting through every day, and that's where the spiritual disciplines are. If we practice the disciplines that God has given us, then we too can have, then that helps us to get that mindset of just help me to get through today. I'm going to try to get through today without being distracted by evil. I need to get through today without allowing the divine appointments that God has specifically prepared for me to do without those getting missed. And we'll do that unless we are disciplined in practicing the disciplines. See, because unless we are praying, we're not connected with God. And what does God say about prayer? Pray without ceasing. Pray continually. In all things, pray. That's a discipline that if we're not engaged in on a minute-by-minute basis, like you're in that foxhole, holding that gun, looking out, if we're not on alert, doing all the things that we've been trained to do, we might not make it. But see, the disciplines help us to get through every day. Because I don't know about you, but I run the risk of getting up, getting to work, going through my day and going to bed and preparing for the next day at work and giving God barely enough attention to even consider myself his. Am I the only one? I guarantee you I'm not. See, the spiritual disciplines help us to get through every day, surviving, preparing, not giving the devil a foothold, not allowing those secret sins to creep in, not allowing all of those temptations to take a foothold. They help us get through each day. And as soon as we take on that mentality of a day-by-day battle, a day-by-day fight, and when we can go to bed at night thinking, I made it today, I survived today, I got closer to God today, I didn't miss as many appointments today as I did yesterday, then guess what? The next day and the next day and before long you can look back and say, wow, what a productive week I had in the kingdom. Then 1 week turns into 2, turns into a month, turns into a year, and before we know it, we've been in the fight. We've been in the battle. We have met those purposes, those appointments. And the kingdom is expanding. So the disciplines help us to get through each day and just make it through another day. They keep our attention span where it needs to be. Not only do they do that, but the disciplines are all about control. See, one of the things, I need to change the batteries in that. One of the disciplines are all about control. One of the things that we have to struggle with, and we don't enough, but one of the things that we have to struggle with is who's in control. And see, I say we don't struggle in that enough because we don't think about it, because we're comfortable with us being in control, right? We're comfortable in me calling the shots, but the more discipline I get, the more discipline I practice, the more I find out that what actually controls me, and it's not just me. It's all of those sins that are around me. It's all of those temptations. You think about specifically fasting as a discipline. And fasting isn't just about weight control. Actually, it's not at all about that. It's about who control. See, fasting has nothing to do with food. It has everything to do with finding out what controls you. Because the more you fast and the hungrier you get, then the real you starts to show up. We call that hangry, right? Angry, hungry. And when you get hangry, what you really think about somebody is bound to come out. That's like when you're tired, and so when you get to that point where, it is where you're hangry. It's affecting you. You feel this discipline. You feel this event, moving you around a little bit. Couple that with prayer and meditation, and maybe if you're hangry enough, you got to get in there a little solitude, get away from people. Find out what it is that really holds your heart. What it is that really makes you angry. Because what anger is being deprived of what you love, what you want, what you feel you're entitled to. And so God starts to uncover that, but we got to give him access physically to us. And when we are disciplined, when we're practicing these disciplines, what really controls us kind of gets pushed to the surface, kind of starts bubbling up. And then, and only then, can we address that if we want to. See, that's another thing we'll find out is that, man, I really don't want to control that. I really don't want to give that up. And that's good too, because at least now you know, and you can be honest with yourself. Because isn't that what we need? Just be honest. If you can find out, you know what? I figured out what it was that controls me, and I'm good with that. Well, at least you know, and you can stop pretending. You can stop pretending that God matters because you're just going to keep doing what it is that you want to do anyway. You're just going to keep going down that same road, being controlled by that same thing, having those same thoughts and those same feelings, and I'm not going to give it over to God. But don't you feel better because at least now you know, and you can take off the mask and quit wasting your time with this sort of relationship with God. Because let me tell you something, there's no such thing. Either you are all in or you are all out. Period, end of story, not open for discussion. And guess what? We have Bible for that. That is uncomfortable. That is not winning me any popularity contest, but I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to be honest. And if we want to be closer to God, it's going to take being uncomfortable, it's going to take being uncovered, and it's going to take us making a decision. Do I want to be controlled by God, or do I want to just leave things the way they are? And it's about time that some of us made that decision. And get real or get gone. Because God says, I will spew you out of my mouth. Now you can come on back and sit in church, but once you're spewed, that's it. That's you're spewed. And coming here and pretending does nothing. The disciplines are all about control. Do you want to find out what's controlling you? Let's walk this road for the next few weeks. Let's walk this road and get closer to God. Go ahead and hit the next one. I don't want to put my glasses back on. I can't read what's down there. There we go. Disciplines make us better. At the end of the day, disciplines make us better. They're not about comfort. They're not about getting what we want. Disciplines make us better. They make us more Christ-like. We're not going to get there this side of heaven. We've already talked about that. But if we want to be better, if we want to be closer, if we want to have a relationship with God that will draw other people to Him, and it's not about lifting ourselves up, and it's not about being thought of, it's not about people thinking, oh, that guy, they're really great people. Oh, I tell you, that's a good guy. That Griff, oh man, he's a good guy. Great for him. No. It's about giving glory to God. It's about showing people that God is real by the transformation that He's making in our lives. Because when we are transformed into something that doesn't look like this world, when we are transformed to the point that we look so different, we act so different than the average, ordinary, unchurched, non-kingdom citizen, it shows God for who He is. Remember what I said at the very beginning? When we live our lives so extraordinarily transformed, God is the only one that can take the credit. God is all that we can blame. Because we can't do this. We wouldn't do it without Him. So what's it going to be? We've got two things today. Number one, let's just absolutely blow Karen's kids' minds. All of their collective minds blown. Can't believe how generous that church in O'Fallon was on that day, spur of the moment, not planned, just God got a hold of some hearts and pulled them apart. And guess what? He shook the money out of them so that we can do things that's unheard of in that area. What's it going to cost you this week? That $100 check that you're about to write, what's it going to cost you? That $200, that $500, what that $50, that $25, that $10. Because correct me if I'm wrong, anything helps, right? See that right there? That means yeah, anything helps. So your gift is not meaningless. Your gift is going to do something. Every bit of what you do goes to help people that need it. There's not a lot of overhead in this ministry. Not a lot of advertising costs. Not a lot of fat cat CEOs up there making decisions. Just rubber meeting the road. We got to have money to make this happen. I think I hear checks being torn out. I like the sound of that. I like the way that sounds. It's kind of like you don't hear that anymore either in church. Everybody's on their iBibles, right? I like the sound of that. It makes me know people are listening when you say, hey, turn to this. Oh, okay. And I like the sound of it's not really what a check sounds like, but whatever. So we're going to blow their minds. We're going to be generous. We're going to meet that need. Second of all, we're going to leave here today preparing to be prepared. Preparing for God to take control through the disciplines that He has given us. Will this week be different than last week? Will our mindset be different? Will you challenge yourself to be approached this week more than last week? Will you challenge yourself to live so differently that we will live out the letter that Peter wrote to the church where it says, when people come to you and ask you, why are you so different? You will have an opportunity to tell them about the hope that you have, because that's what we're told to do. When people ask you about the hope, why do you act the way that you do? You tell them, well, let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you about my Lord. Will you challenge to see how I'm going to live so differently? I'm going to be so anti this world. I'm going to be the exact opposite. At least one person this week is going to notice, and they're going to come ask me. I'm going for 5. Maybe we got an overachiever out there, like our teens, because I asked them to do a little writing assignment last Wednesday night, and 3 of them brought in, like I said, just 1 page, just write a little paragraph about what we're talking about. 4 of them brought in 4 pages. 4 pages, handwritten, written. Overachievers. Are we going to be like them and overachieve and say, hey, I'm going to go for 5 people, 10 people this week that are so blown away by how different I am that they can't help themselves but come ask me, what's the deal with why I act this way? And I can't wait to tell them, let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you about my Lord. What's it going to be this week? We're about to sing a song. What's the next song we're singing, Scotto? Teach me, Lord, to what? Teach me, Lord, to wait. Delayed gratification. I'm going to give it all away now because God's going to show me something I had no idea was coming. So we're about to sing, Teach me, Lord, to wait. Now we're going to sing those songs. We're going to sing those words. But are we going to mean it? Because the way that God teaches us sometimes is not comfortable. It's not the most pleasant thing, but it's the best thing. It's the best thing. Will you join me as together we stand and sing?